Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So as per the request that we got in last comments, we will be covering the topic of EC2 today. So although a lot of people have worked on EC2 already and are aware about what an EC2 is, but just for the people who are starting with AWS, EC2 is one of the most common services used in AWS. Like the other common services are S3 and IAM, VPCs. Okay, so we'll be covering EC2 today. So EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, and this service is nothing but a is a virtual server service that is provided by AWS. So EC2 is replacement for on-premise servers that we used to have in our data centers. So today we'll be seeing how do we create an EC2 instance in AWS. So let's start. So we first need to go to the EC2 console in AWS. So guys, please have a look at this console, but this console keeps on changing. AWS keeps on working on this console, so the fields may change, the layout may change, but more or less the features and the services remain same. So like for example, EC2 Global View is a service that is relatively new in AWS. This option was not there traditionally. So this helps in identifying if you might be aware about the availability zones and regions in AWS. So if you are having multiple regions enabled in your account and you are having resources in multiple regions, so suppose you want to find out in how many regions EC2 exists in your account, you can use this region explorer, and from here you can see that there are two instances in US East 2 for my account. Okay, so this is useful when we need to find out how many instances are there in the total instances are there in our account and in which different regions they exist. Okay, so as for today's lecture, let's start with launching the instance. So we'll create on launch instance. So once we select launch instance, we need to provide a name. So I'll give it a name, my first EC2. Okay, it can be, the name can be anything. So in application and OS images, we choose the Amazon machine image or AMI of the operating system that we want to use. So we have a range here like Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat, SUSE, and multiple images are there. We can also use some custom AMIs, custom images either provided by Amazon, or if you have some AMIs shared on your account, that's something that we will cover in later lectures. So to keep things simple in this one, we'll select Amazon Linux. So in this, from this drop down, we'll select the latest image of Amazon Linux. So you can see there are multiple images with Amazon Linux with SQL Server 2017, Amazon Linux with .NET, PowerShell, Mono. So these are all additional plugins or services installed on top of the operating system. But we'll select the plain basic Amazon Linux 2023 AMI. This is the latest update of the operating system that we have. So okay, after this, our architecture will keep it selected as 64-bit default. Then instance this basically, as you can see in the description, this type or instance type basically indicates the size of your physical hardware that you are selecting. So the pricing will increase as you go up and is lesser for the smaller instance sizes. So like this one, on this one we can see it is showing marked as free tier eligible, although I don't have free tier on my account, but still for most of you, if you are trying to learn this, free tier is the way to go, so that you don't incur any additional charges. So we will select free tier. Okay. So after selecting the instance size, we'll select the key pair. So key pairs are required whenever you create any instance. A key pair is required to connect it for the first time for authentication purpose, and this is something that you need to be extra cautious about. Okay, so I don't have a key pair already created in this account in this region, so I'll create a new key pair. I'll give it a name, my first key pair RSA. So you can see we will keep the type as RSA. As in this drop down in this dialog box, you can select either you want to go with PM or PPK. So if you are using any OpenSSH terminal on your system, you can go with PM, but in most of the cases it is useful to select PPK, because if you are having a Windows machine, and most probably you will be using PuTTY to connect, so PPK is more useful. Since I am working on a Mac, so I'll select .pm, as that is easier for me to connect. So I'll click on create key pair. So as you can see, the key pair has been downloaded onto my local machine. So now if we go to network settings, we can see that some settings are selected by default, but we want to customize it. So we'll click on edit. So I have a separate VPC created in my account apart from the default one. So for those who don't know what a VPC is, VPC is virtual private cloud. So when you create a VPC, you create a virtualized private environment for your resources. So every resource you create, and they will be part of this VPC if you assign them in this VPC, so that they can be interconnected. And as per your requirement, this VPC can either be accessible be able to access internet, or it can be in an isolated environment. So I already have created this VPC, so let's select this. I have only one subnet created in this VPC, so I'll select that. Keeping it as default, auto assign public IP disable. So I don't want my instances to have a public IP, so I'll keep it as disable. Then the next option is firewall or security group. So security group is a set of firewall rules that you can configure and manage from AWS to control the traffic on your instance. So it is essential to assign security group. So I'll select I don't have a already created a security group. It's the default one, so I'll create a security group. I'll give it a name, appsg1. Okay, and keep the description as same. Created for application testing or application instances. So in this one, in this security group, this is the rule. I am allowing SSH from anywhere. I can create it restricted to a custom IP, but for now I'm keeping it as anywhere. If I want, I can add some more rules for more ports, etc. I can control if I want to have multiple network interfaces attached, but for this particular testing we don't need that. So we'll go next and select the storage. So for just this, since this is just for testing purpose, I'll keep it as 20 GB. GP3 is the latest and the most cost effective and performance effective value for money solution. So we'll select GP3. Okay. Then if you click on advanced details, we can see that there are some other configuration options available. Like if this was a Windows instance, I could have selected if I want to create a directory, and or if there is an existing directory for me on my AWS account, I can select that to join the domain, join the server to the domain. Then I can choose whether I want the host name to be IP name or resource name, shutdown behavior, termination protection. So these all are advanced settings that you can enable for your server. So they are not required in most of the cases. So we'll not do anything with them. So now we can see that we are ready, and if we look at the right side, it gives an option that what is the number of instances you want to create. So suppose I want to create 2 or 3 or 4 instances of same configuration, same setup, I could have selected 2, 3 or 4 here, whatever the number will be. Since we are just doing this testing for one instance, so we'll keep it as one and we'll click on launch instances. So as you can see in the progress bar, it is creating security groups. Okay, and it has initiated launch of instance. This is our instance ID. So if I click on this, okay, you can see that the instance has been created. The instance state is pending. Instance state is pending, and if we go to status and announce, it is still pending. If we go to security, we can see that the security group has been attached. And this is the private IP. We don't have a public IP. This is as we intended. In the storage section, we can see that there is a 20 gig of volume attached on to this server. So if I refresh it now, my server is running and the status is initializing. So in initializing status, it is checking the system for ping, health, availability. So if I want, I can select my instance. I can go to actions, monitor and troubleshoot, and get instance screenshot. So if I do this, I'll be able to see that the instance is loaded. Perfect. Let's hit refresh one more time. Okay, it is still initializing, so it takes around 4-5 minutes to pass the checks. So from here we can see that the key pair that we selected, my first key pair, that has been associated with this instance. This is as we intended, and the instance is created in the VPC that we selected and the subnet that we had. Just a moment. Okay, let's refresh the tab once. Let's see if we have any alarms on the system, but no. So it will be up and ready for use in. Okay, great. So as we can see, it worked. The status is 2x2 checks passed, system reachability check passed, instance reachability check passed. So that means our instance is healthy and is up now. Perfect. So now the question is, how do we connect to this instance? How do we log into this instance? Because we don't have a public IP assigned to it. we intentionally kept it as a with a private IP. We don't have a public IP here. So this is not accessible from internet. This instance is not reachable from internet, right? So how do we connect to this? So we'll be using another service from AWS which is called SSM or Systems Manager. So we'll be using Systems Manager to connect this instance from AWS console. But if I go to connect, I can see that Session Manager is not working as of now, because there are some prerequisites that we need to fulfill before we can connect to this instance or any instance with SSM. We'll be covering that in the next video. So hope to see you soon. Keep watching. Happy learning. Take care. Bye bye.